The security cameras at Eco Atlantic captured everything. A man in an expensive suit standing at the edge of the unfinished building's rooftop, 30 floors above the ground. Wind whipping his clothes. His phone ringing endlessly in his pocket. One step, and it would all be over. But then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a homeless man, shirtless, covered in dirt, matted hair down to his shoulders. The security team watching the monitors assumed he was just another mentally unstable person who had wandered onto the construction site. "Sir, please don't," the homeless man shouted, running toward the suited man. The billionaire turned, shocked to see anyone up there. "Stay back. Don't come near me. I know what they did to you," the homeless man screamed. "I know everything. Your business partner, your wife, the documents. I know." The billionaire froze. His foot, which had been inching toward the edge, stopped. How? How do you know about that?" The homeless man smiled, a broken, knowing smile. "Because I'm the one who destroyed your life. And if you jump, they win. Is that what you want? To let them win?" The billionaire stared at this filthy stranger who somehow knew his deepest secrets, who somehow knew about the betrayal that had brought him here, ready to end everything. "Who are you?" The homeless man's smile faded. "I'm the ghost of your past. The man you helped destroy 7 years ago. And the only one who can save you now." Before we continue, hit subscribe if you love emotional stories like this, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Now let's get back to where this nightmare began. Chidi Nwosu was a billionaire at 42. But he hadn't always been wealthy. He had built everything from nothing. Born in a small village in Anambra State, Chidi was the son of a primary school teacher and a petty trader. He had 9 siblings. They lived in a 2-room house with a leaking zinc roof. Chidi studied by candlelight because they couldn't afford kerosene for lamps. He walked 6 kilometers to school every day barefoot because there was no money for shoes. But Chidi was brilliant. He finished secondary school as the best student in his state. He won a scholarship to study civil engineering at the University of Lagos. When he arrived in Lagos in 1998 with only 1 bag of belongings and 5,000 naira his mother had saved for years, he was terrified but determined. At university, he met Adekunle Taiwo. Adekunle was from Lagos, sophisticated, well-connected, but not particularly hardworking. He was failing most of his business administration classes. "Guy, help me with this assignment," Adekunle asked Chidi one day in their second year. "I'll pay you 2,000 naira. Chidi needed the money, desperately. He did the assignment, then another, then another. Over their 4 years at university, Chidi essentially completed half of Adekunle's degree for him while Adekunle partied and networked with the children of wealthy families. "You're the smartest guy I know," Adekunle told him at graduation. "When I start my business, you're going to be my partner. We'll make millions together." Chidi believed him. After graduation in 2002, they stayed in touch. Chidi got a job as a site engineer, making 70,000 naira per month. Adekunle, whose family had connections, got a comfortable job at his uncle's company making 150,000 per month. In 2005, Chidi decided to start his own construction company. He had saved 400,000 naira over 3 years, every kobo he could spare. He approached Adekunle. "Remember what you said about us being partners? I'm starting a construction business. I need someone to handle the business side while I handle the technical side. Are you in?" Adekunle thought about it. His own career had stalled. His rich kid colleagues were overtaking him because he wasn't actually good at business. But Chidi? Chidi was brilliant. This could be his ticket to real wealth. "I'm in, but I don't have money to invest. Can I be a partner based on my business skills?" Chidi agreed. They registered Nwosu Industries in 2006, named after Chidi because it was his vision and his capital, but with Adekunle as co-founder and chief operations officer. The first 5 years were brutal. They struggled to get contracts. They competed with established firms that had connections Chitty didn't have. There were months they couldn't pay their staff. Months they couldn't pay themselves. Chitty married Chioma in 2007. She was a banker he met when applying for a business loan. Beautiful, educated, seemingly supportive. They had a small wedding because money was tight. She quit her banking job to help manage the company's finances. "We'll build this together," she told him. "You, me, and Adekunle. We're a team." By 2010, things finally started improving. They landed a major government contract to build low-cost housing in Abuja. The contract was worth 500 million naira. It was their breakthrough. Chitty worked like a man possessed. He was on site every day, ensuring quality, managing workers, solving problems. Adekunle handled the business relationships and payments. Chioma managed the accounts. The project was completed on time and within budget. Their reputation grew. More contracts came, bigger contracts. By 2012, Nwosu Industries was building shopping malls, office complexes, and residential estates across Nigeria. Revenue was in billions. Chitty was finally wealthy. He moved his family from a small apartment in Surulere to a mansion in Banana Island. He bought luxury cars. He brought his mother and siblings from the village and set them up comfortably in Lagos. He was living the dream he'd worked for since childhood. Adekunle benefited hugely from all this. As co-founder, he received 40% of all profits. By 2015, Adekunle was also a multimillionaire. He lived in Lekki Phase 1, drove expensive cars, dated models and actresses. But it wasn't enough for him. He resented that Chitty was the face of the company. That business magazines interviewed Chitty, not him. That people called it Chitty's company, even though Adekunle was a co-founder. "I brought the connections," Adekunle would complain privately. "I handled the politicians, the contracts, the networking. But everyone acts like Chitty did everything alone." His resentment grew quietly, like a cancer. And then he met Chioma at the company's 10th anniversary party in 2016. Chioma had been feeling neglected. Chitty was always working, always traveling to sites, always buried in blueprints and budgets. They had no children. She'd had 3 miscarriages that had left her emotionally devastated. Chitty tried to be supportive, but he didn't know how to handle her pain. He buried himself in work instead. Adekunle, on the other hand, was charming, attentive. He listened when she talked. He made her feel seen. The affair started slowly. Coffee meetings that became lunch meetings that became secret hotel visits. Within 6 months, they were deeply involved. "He doesn't appreciate you," Adekunle told her one night in a hotel room in Victoria Island. "He takes you for granted. You deserve better." "What can I do? He's my husband. You could leave him. We could be together. I have my own money now. I could take care of you." But he built everything. The company, our life. "We built everything," Adekunle corrected. "I'm a co-founder. I'm entitled to half of everything. And you're his wife. You're entitled to half too. If we're smart about this, we could take the whole company and leave him with nothing." The seed was planted. Over the next year, Adekunle carefully studied the company's systems. He figured out how Chitty managed the accounts, how the digital signatures worked, how money moved through the various corporate entities they had set up for tax purposes. And then he remembered someone from his past. Someone brilliant with financial systems. Someone he'd heard had fallen on hard times and might be desperate enough to help with something illegal. Dr. Olumide Coker. Olumide Coker had been a rising star at Sterling Bank. He was a senior accountant with a gift for understanding complex financial systems. He had a wife, Folake, and 2 children, a son named Femi and a daughter named Temitope. They lived in a nice house in Lekki Phase 2. Life was good. Then Femi got sick. Leukemia. Stage 3. The treatment would cost 40 million naira, bone marrow transplant, chemotherapy, medication, everything. Olyamide's insurance only covered 5 million naira. He had savings of 8 million. That left him 27 million short. He borrowed from friends, from family, from loan sharks. He sold his car. He mortgaged his house. But he was still 15 million short. That's when Adekunle found him. "I heard about your son," Adekunle said when they met at a cafe in Ikeja. "I'm so sorry." "How is he?" "Not good. We need to start treatment immediately, but I don't have enough money." "How much do you need?" 15 million naira. "But I've exhausted every option. I don't know what to do." "What if I gave you 50 million naira?" Olyamide stared at him.
"What?"
"Why would you do that?" "Because I need your help with something. Something sensitive. Financial consulting for a private project. It's not strictly legal, but it's not hurting anyone either. Just moving money around for tax purposes. You know how these things work." Olyamide should have said no. Should have walked away. But his son was dying. Every day without treatment decreased Femi's chances of survival. "What exactly do you need me to do?" Adekunle explained. He needed to move money out of his company without his business partner knowing. He needed systems that could mimic digital signatures, that could make transactions look authorized when they weren't, that could hide money trails. "This is fraud," Olyamide said. "It's creative accounting. Look, I'm entitled to this money. The company is half mine. But my partner is being difficult about profit distribution. I just need a way to access what's already mine without endless arguments." It was a lie, but Olyamide was desperate enough to believe it. Or, at least, desperate enough to pretend to believe it. He took the 50 million naira. He saved his son's life. And he built Adekunle a system for sophisticated theft. Over the next 6 months, Olyamide taught Adekunle everything. How to create fake digital signatures using sophisticated software, how to manipulate transaction logs, how to route money through shell companies, how to make theft look like authorized business expenses. "This is brilliant," Adekunle said, studying the system. "You're a genius, Olyamide. Just promise me you'll only use this for what you said, getting your fair share from your company. Nothing more." "Of course. I'm not a criminal. I just need what's rightfully mine." Another lie. Once Adekunle had learned everything he needed, he betrayed Olyamide exactly as he would later betray Chitty. He had secretly recorded all their meetings. He had video of Olyamide explaining the fraud systems, documents showing the 50 million naira payment. He edited everything to make it look like Olyamide was the criminal mastermind and Adekunle was just an innocent businessman asking questions about financial systems. Then he reported Olyamide to Sterling Bank's fraud department. Olyamide was arrested in December 2017, just as his son was finishing his cancer treatment. The FCC charged him with fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. "Adekunle set me up." Olyamide tried to tell the investigators. "He forced me to help him. He threatened my son." But there was no evidence of threats. Only evidence of Olyamide teaching Adekunle how to commit fraud. Only evidence of Olyamide accepting 50 million naira for illegal services. Olyamide went to trial in March 2018. His wife, Folake, divorced him before the trial even started. "I can't be married to a criminal," she said coldly. "Think about the children. Think about their future." "I was trying to save our son. By becoming a thief? You've destroyed our family." He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His banking license was revoked. His house was seized. His children were taken away. Folake got full custody and moved to Ibadan with her new boyfriend. Olyamide served 3 years before being released early for good behavior in December 2020. When he got out, he had nothing. No job. Who would hire a convicted fraudster? No family. His wife had remarried and his children barely remembered him. No home. No money. He ended up on the streets of Lagos, sleeping under bridges, digging through garbage for food, talking to himself because there was no one else to talk to. People called him mad. Maybe he was. Maybe betrayal and loss really do break something in your mind that can never be fully repaired. But through it all, Olyamide read newspapers. He collected them from trash bins and read every page. And in October 2023, he saw a headline that made his blood run cold. Nwosu Industries CEO Chidi Nwosu under investigation for massive fraud. He read the article carefully. The details were familiar. Too familiar. The fake digital signatures. The offshore accounts. The money moved through shell companies. It was his system. The system he'd built for Adekunle. And that's when Olyamide realized Adekunle hadn't used the system to get his fair share from his own company. He'd used it to steal from his business partner. Chidi Nwosu wasn't the criminal. He was the victim, just like Olyamide had been. Olyamide followed the story obsessively. He read every article, watched every news report. He saw Chidi's reputation destroyed, his company seized, his wife filing for divorce. And Olyamide knew exactly how the story would end, with Chidi losing everything, just like Olyamide had lost everything. Unless someone stopped it. That's why, when Olyamide read that Chidi's construction site at Eco Atlantic was being seized by creditors, he went there. He knew a man as broken as Chidi wouldn't go there to plan. He'd go there to end it. And that's how a homeless madman ended up on a rooftop, running toward a billionaire about to jump. It started with an email from the bank at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Chidi was having breakfast with Chioma when his phone buzzed. Suspicious transaction alert. 500 million naira withdrawn from Nwosu Industries corporate account 1. If you did not authorize this transaction, contact us immediately. Chidi's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. What the hell? What's wrong? Chioma asked, not looking up from her own phone. The bank says 500 million naira was withdrawn from our corporate account. Did you authorize any large payments?
No.
Maybe it's a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. Chidi called his CFO, Emeka, immediately. Did you process any large withdrawals over the weekend?
No, sir.
Everything was normal when I left on Friday. Check all the accounts. Now. 20 minutes later, Emeka called back. His voice was shaking. Sir, we need to meet. In person. This is bad. At the office, Emeka showed Chidi the disaster. 7 different accounts had been emptied over the weekend. Money had been moved in complex patterns through various corporate entities, then transferred to offshore accounts. Total stolen, 2,300 million naira. How is this possible? Chidi demanded. We have security protocols. 2-factor authentication. How did someone access all these accounts? Emeka pulled up the transaction logs. Sir, all the transfers were authorized with your digital signature. The system shows you approved every single transaction. That's impossible. I was at home all weekend. I didn't approve anything. They called the bank. They called cybersecurity experts. Everyone confirmed the same thing. The transactions had been properly authorized using Chidi's genuine digital signature. Someone cloned my signature somehow, Chidi said. We need to find out who and how. The IT team traced the access points. Sir, the transactions originated from 2 locations. One is your home computer. The other is, this is strange, Mr. Adekunle's office computer. Chidi felt ice in his veins. Adekunle? That must be a mistake. Run the trace again. They ran it 3 times. Same result. The theft had been orchestrated from Adekunle's computer. Chidi went to confront his best friend, his business partner of 18 years, the man he trusted more than anyone except his wife. Adekunle was in his office, feet on his desk, sipping expensive cognac at 10 in the morning. Ade, we need to talk. Something's happened. I know what happened, Adekunle interrupted calmly. You're wondering about the money. You know? What do you mean you know? I mean I took it. 2.3 billion naira. It's already in Dubai, safe in offshore accounts under shell companies you'll never be able to trace. Chidi laughed, a shocked, disbelieving laugh. You're joking. This is some kind of prank. No prank. I've been planning this for 2 years. Do you know how exhausting it's been, playing the loyal friend while you got all the glory? Chidi Nwosu, the brilliant engineer. Chidi Nwosu, the self-made billionaire. What about me? I brought half the contacts. I closed half the deals. But it's always been your company, your vision, your success. Because it was my vision. I started this with my own money. 400,000 naira 18 years ago. I've helped you make billions since then. I deserve more than 40% of profits. I deserve everything. So, you're stealing from me? From our company? From our employees? I'm taking what should have been mine from the beginning. And there's nothing you can do about it. You see, I was very careful. All the transactions have your authorization codes, your digital signatures. To anyone investigating, it will look like you stole the money. That's insane. I'll go to the police. I'll prove you did this. With what evidence? I've covered every track. I even have emails sent from your account, which I've had access to for months, discussing moving money offshore for tax optimization. I have documents with your signature authorizing the transfers. I have everything needed to make you look like the thief trying to blame me. Chidi lunged at Adekunle, but two security guards Adekunle had been paying extra for months, specifically for this moment, grabbed him. Oh, and one more thing, Adekunle said, finishing his cognac. Your wife,
Chioma.
We've been sleeping together for 2 years. She's been giving me your passwords, your account information, your signatures. She's coming to Dubai with me next week. She says to tell you she's filing for divorce. The words hit harder than any physical blow. Chidi stopped struggling. Chioma?
No.
That's not possible. Very possible. In fact, it was her idea to add the domestic abuse angle. She's going to claim you beat her, that she feared for her life, that she needs protection, and an emergency divorce settlement. She has doctors' reports, photos, witnesses, all fake, but very convincing. By the time the courts are done with you, you won't have a naira left. The security guards threw Chidi out of the building, his building that he had built from nothing. He sat on the curb outside, his mind unable to process what had just happened. His best friend,
His wife.
both of them, both betraying him systematically, carefully, cruelly. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare that got progressively worse. Chidi went to the police. They listened politely, then showed him the evidence Adekunle had planted. It all pointed to Chidi as the thief. Mr. Nwosu, we have emails from your account discussing hiding money offshore. We have your digital signatures on all the transfers. Mr. Taiwo's lawyer has provided evidence suggesting you were planning to flee the country with stolen company funds. That's all manufactured. He set me up. Do you have proof of that? Chidi didn't. Adekunle had been too careful. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, launched an investigation. They froze all of Chidi's personal accounts. They seized his passport. They placed restrictions on his movements. You're under investigation for money laundering and fraud, the EFCC officer told him. Don't leave Lagos. Chioma filed for divorce 3 days after the confrontation. Her lawyer presented photos of bruises, medical reports documenting injuries, testimony from housemaids Adekunle had paid to lie. My client has suffered years of abuse, Chioma's lawyer told the court. She finally found the courage to leave. She's seeking 50% of all marital assets as settlement and a restraining order against Mr. Nwosu. I never touched her, Chidi shouted in court. This is all lies. She's part of the theft. But he couldn't prove it. The evidence, fake as it was, looked convincing. The media turned on him viciously. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire under investigation for massive fraud." Wife accuses construction mogul of domestic violence. Did Chidi Nwosu's empire fall because of his own crimes? Business partners distanced themselves. Contracts were cancelled. The board of directors of Nwosu Industries, influenced by Adekunle, voted to remove Chitty as CEO pending investigation. "You're a liability," the chairman told him. "Until this is resolved, we need you to step back. This is my company. I built it. Your name is on it, but right now your name is poison. Step aside or we'll force you out entirely." Everything Chitty had built over 20 years collapsed in 2 weeks. His mansion in Banana Island was seized by the bank because his accounts were frozen and he couldn't make the mortgage payments. His luxury cars were repossessed. His investments were frozen. He moved back to a small apartment in Surrey, the same type of place he'd lived in 20 years ago when he was starting out. His siblings, who he'd been supporting for years, stopped calling. His friends stopped answering his calls. His former employees crossed the street to avoid him. Chitty spent his days in that small apartment, watching his life's work crumble on the news, unable to stop it, unable to prove his innocence. At night, he would sit on the balcony and stare at the Lego skyline, a skyline he'd helped build, buildings that bore his company's name that no longer wanted anything to do with him. And he thought about ending it all. He wrote a suicide note. "To whom it may concern, I am innocent of all charges. Adekunle Taiwo destroyed me with help from my wife. I hope one day the truth comes out. But I can't live with this shame, this pain, this betrayal anymore. I'm sorry to everyone I've let down, especially my mother, who sacrificed everything to give me a chance at success, only to watch me lose it all. Goodbye." On a Wednesday evening, 3 weeks after the theft, Chitty drove to Eco Atlantic, the development site where he'd built some of his most famous buildings. Security was light because construction had stopped due to the scandal. He took the elevator to the top floor of an unfinished 30-story building. He stood at the edge, wind whipping his clothes, phone ringing endlessly in his pocket with calls from reporters wanting statements about the latest accusations. One step. That's all it would take. He closed his eyes and prepared to jump. "Sir, please don't." Chitty turned and saw a shirtless, homeless man running toward him, matted hair, dirty skin, looking completely insane. "Stay back. I don't want help. I know what they did to you. Adekunle, your wife. The money. I know everything." Chitty froze. How could this homeless man possibly know about private details of his life? "Who are you?" The homeless man stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. "My name is Dr. Alyamide Coker, and I'm the one who created the system that destroyed your life." Chitty stared at the homeless man. "You created the system?"
What are you talking about?
Alyamide sat down on the rooftop floor, exhausted from running. 7 years ago, Adekunle Taiwo came to me. My son was dying of leukemia. Treatment cost 40 million naira. I'd sold everything, my car, mortgaged my house, borrowed from everyone I knew. But I was still 15 million short. Adekunle offered me 50 million naira to help him with financial consulting. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was illegal. But my son was dying. "So, you built a system to help him steal?" "I built a system to move money through complex corporate structures without easy detection. Digital signature cloning, transaction log manipulation, shell company routing. Everything he needed to commit sophisticated financial fraud. I convinced myself I was just helping him access his own money from a difficult business partner. I convinced myself I wasn't really a criminal, just a desperate father." Chitty's anger flared. "You destroyed people's lives. You destroyed my life. I know, and I've paid for it every single day. After I taught Adekunle everything, he betrayed me. He recorded our meetings, edited the videos to make me look like the criminal mastermind, and reported me to my bank. I was arrested, tried, convicted. I spent 3 years in prison. Lost my job, my professional license, my house. My wife divorced me and took my children. When I got out, I had nothing. I ended up here, on the streets, living like an animal, called mad by everyone who sees me. You deserve it. You're a criminal."
Yes.
"I am. I made a terrible choice and I've lived with the consequences. But you are innocent. You didn't do anything wrong. Adekunle targeted you the same way he targeted me. He used the system I built to destroy you. And if you jump off this building, he wins. Is that what you want? To give him exactly what he wants. Chitty turned back to the edge. What difference does it make? He's already won. He stole my money. He took my wife. He destroyed my reputation. Even if I live, I have nothing left. You have one thing left, the truth. And I can help you prove it.
How?
You just said you taught him how to hide everything. I taught him how to hide it from normal investigators. But I'm not a normal investigator. I built the system. I know its weaknesses, its patterns, its fingerprints. Every system has vulnerabilities, especially ones built by someone who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Adekunle thinks he covered every track. But he didn't. Because there's one thing he doesn't know about the system I built. What? I installed a backdoor. A way for me to access any accounts using my system if I ever needed to. It was my insurance policy in case Adekunle turned on me, which he did, but by then I was already in prison and couldn't use it. But I never told him about it. Which means if he's still using my system, I can get in. I can see where the money went. I can prove what he did. Chitty turned slowly, hope flickering for the first time in weeks. You're serious? Completely. But we need to move fast. How long until Adekunle leaves the country? He said he's going to Dubai next week. That's 4 days from now. Then we have 4 days to gather evidence, contact authorities, and stop him before he disappears forever. Why should I trust you? You admitted you're a criminal. You built the weapon that destroyed me. Alyamide stood up, his eyes meeting Chitty's directly. Because I have nothing left to lose. I'm homeless, disgraced, separated from my children. I can't get my old life back. But maybe, just maybe, if I help you get justice, I can sleep at night for the first time in 7 years. Maybe I can be human again instead of just this. He gestured at his filthy body, his matted hair. I can't undo what I did. But I can stop Adekunle from doing it to anyone else. And if this is a trap, if you're working with him, then I'm the worst con artist in history, because I've spent the last 7 years living under a bridge in Mushin waiting for my moment to trick you into what? Coming down from this rooftop? If I wanted to hurt you, I'd just let you jump. The logic was sound, as twisted as the situation was. Chitty looked at the edge one more time. Then he looked at this broken, homeless man, offering him one last chance at justice. Okay, Chitty said quietly. Help me. Help me destroy him. Alyamide smiled for the first time, a genuine smile that transformed his haggard face. Then let's go. We don't have much time. Chitty's first problem was practical. He was bringing a homeless man to his apartment in Suralere. His neighbors stared openly as they walked through the compound. Should I call police? The gateman whispered to Chitty. That man looks dangerous. He's with me. He's my consultant. Inside the small apartment, Chitty showed Alyamide to the bathroom. Shower. I'll find you some clothes. 20 minutes later, Alyamide emerged transformed. Clean, wearing Chitty's old jeans and shirt, his wet hair combed back. He looked almost normal. Almost human. I haven't felt clean in. I can't even remember how long. Alyamide said quietly. Chitty set up his laptop on the small dining table. Show me what you can do. Alyamide's fingers flew across the keyboard with the confidence of someone who had once been brilliant at his job. He accessed dark web forums, contacted old hacking associates, pulled up blockchain trackers. First, we traced the money, Alyamide explained. Adekunle moved it offshore, but offshore doesn't mean invisible. Every transaction leaves a trail if you know where to look. See this. He pointed at a screen full of code. This is the backdoor I built into the signature cloning system. It's still active, which means Adekunle is still using my original framework. Can you see where my money went? Give me a few hours. While Alyamide worked, Chitty ordered food, proper food. The first real meal Al-Yamid had eaten in years. Jollof rice, chicken, plantain. Al-Yamid ate slowly, savoring every bite, tears in his eyes. I used to take food like this for granted, he said. When you're on the streets, you eat from garbage bins. You fight rats for scraps. You forget what real food tastes like. How did you survive 7 years like that? I don't know.
Some days I wanted to die.
Most days, actually. But something kept me going. Maybe guilt. Maybe the hope that one day I could make things right. Maybe just stubbornness. The human will to survive is strange. Even when life isn't worth living, something in us fights to keep going. By evening, Al-Yamid had made progress. Look at this. Your 2 billion naira went to 3 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. From there, it was split into smaller amounts and moved through shell companies in Panama, Luxembourg, and Dubai. Very sophisticated. But I can trace every movement. Can you prove Adekunle controls these accounts? Not yet. But look at these other transactions. Al-Yamid pulled up more screens. These are previous movements using the same system. Smaller amounts, 20 million here, 30 million there, 50 million there. All following the same pattern. All ending in the same places. He's done this before? To other people. At least 5 others I can identify from the patterns. Small business owners, mid-level executives.
People who couldn't fight back.
You're just his biggest score. And see the dates? They go back years. He's been systematically stealing from people since I taught him the system. Chitty felt sick. We need to contact the police. Show them this evidence. No, Al-Yamid said sharply. Not yet. The police move slowly. Adekunle has connections, money to bribe officials. If we go to them now with just transaction trails, he'll be warned and he'll disappear. We need something more. Something undeniable. Like what? Like catching him in the act. Like making him confess on recording. Like trapping him so thoroughly he can't escape. How do we do that? Al-Yamid smiled, that unsettling smile of someone who understands crime from the inside. We bait him. We offer him one more score. One final theft so tempting he can't resist. And when he takes the bait, we catch him. Al-Yamid created a fake company, Apex Holdings Limited. On paper, it looked like a small investment firm with sloppy security. He set up a fake offshore account with fake money, just numbers on a screen, but convincing numbers. Then, using encrypted messaging channels on the dark web, he sent an anonymous message to an account he knew Adekunle monitored. Opportunity available. Apex Holdings. Account 2847. 50 million USD ready to move. Security minimal. Act fast. Will he take it? Chitty asked. He's greedy and arrogant. That's a dangerous combination. He thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. So yes, he'll take it. He won't be able to resist one more score before he leaves the country. They waited. Hours passed. Chitty paced nervously. Al-Yamid monitored multiple screens, tracking dark web activity. Finally, at 11 p.m., Al-Yamid's computer beeped. He's in. He's accessing the fake account right now. On the screen, they watched Adekunle's digital fingerprints as he tried to hack into Apex Holdings. He used the same techniques Al-Yamid had taught him: digital signature cloning, two-factor authentication bypass, transaction log manipulation. Come on, Al-Yamid whispered. Just a little further. Adekunle initiated a transfer. 50 million USD from the fake Apex account to one of his offshore accounts.
Now.
Al-Yamid hit a key. The backdoor activated. It locked Adekunle's computer and began recording everything: his real IP address, his actual offshore account numbers, his authentication codes, his physical location. More importantly, it triggered a screen capture that started recording everything on Adekunle's computer, including a folder he had opened in the background titled Previous Jobs. Oh my God, Chitty breathed. What is that? Al-Yamid opened the folder remotely. Inside were videos, documents, and recordings. Adekunle had kept trophies of every person he'd stolen from. Videos of him laughing about the thefts. Documents detailing his methods. Recordings of conversations with Chioma about manipulating Chidi. He kept evidence of everything. Chidi couldn't believe it. Why would he do that? Arrogance, Olamide said, downloading everything frantically. He's proud of his work. He wants to remember his victories. Criminals like him, they think they're geniuses. They keep trophies to prove it. It's classic narcissism. They downloaded everything, gigabytes of evidence. The videos showed Adekunle bragging about previous thefts. The documents detailed every theft he'd committed over 7 years. The recordings included Chioma and Adekunle planning how to frame Chidi. We have him, Olamide said, backing everything up to multiple cloud services. We have everything we need. But Chidi was focused on one recording, a video of Adekunle and Chioma together, dated 3 months earlier. In the video, Chioma was asking, "Are you sure we can get away with this?" "Absolutely," Adekunle replied. "Chidi is smart about engineering but stupid about people. He trusts me completely. We take the money, I frame him for the theft, you get half of everything in the divorce, and we disappear to Dubai. It's perfect." "What about Olamide, the guy who built your system? What if he talks?" "Olamide?" Adekunle laughed. "That madman? He's been living under a bridge in Mushin for years, talking to himself. Nobody would believe him if he tried to say anything. He's harmless." Chidi paused the video. He looked at Olamide, who was staring at the screen with tears in his eyes. "I've been living under the bridge in Mushin," Olamide said quietly. He was right. I became exactly what he said, a madman nobody would believe. "But he was wrong about one thing," Chidi said. "You're not harmless. You're the one who's about to destroy him." "We can't just go to the police," Olamide insisted. "Adekunle has paid off people in the FCC, in the police force. If we hand this evidence to them quietly, it might disappear. We need to make this so public that they can't ignore it or bury it."
How?
"We go to every media house in Nigeria simultaneously. We leak everything online. We make it impossible to cover up. They spent all day contacting journalists. Premium Times, The Guardian, Punch, Vanguard, Sahara reporters. Every major news outlet. Olamide sent encrypted files with all the evidence, videos, documents, transaction records, everything. He also created anonymous social media accounts and started posting excerpts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Clips of Adekunle bragging about his thefts. Screenshots of offshore accounts. Documents showing the stolen money. Within hours, the story exploded online. #Adekunle exposed trended #1 on Nigerian Twitter. WhatsApp groups shared the videos. News websites crashed from traffic. By evening, every major news outlet was covering the story. Breaking: evidence emerges in Nwosu Industries fraud case. CEO may be innocent. Massive financial fraud network exposed. Adekunle Taiwo named as mastermind. Chidi Nwosu cleared? New evidence shows sophisticated setup. The FCC had no choice. With public pressure mounting, with evidence circulating everywhere, they had to act. At 9 p.m., FCC operatives raided Adekunle's house in Lekki Phase 1. They seized his computers, his phones, his documents. They found exactly what Olamide said they'd find. More evidence, more trophies, more proof of systematic fraud. Adekunle was arrested at Murtala Muhammad International Airport at 11 p.m., trying to board a first-class flight to Dubai. Chioma was with him, also arrested as an accomplice. Chidi watched the arrest live on television. News helicopters captured Adekunle being led away in handcuffs, his face stunned, unable to comprehend how his perfect plan had collapsed in 72 hours. The news anchor was saying, in a dramatic turn of events, the businessman accused of being a victim may actually be innocent, while his accuser appears to be the real criminal. FCC sources say they have overwhelming evidence of a fraud network operating for at least 7 years. Chitty turned to Olyamide, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the apartment. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Olyamide corrected. I couldn't have done this without your resources, your courage to trust a homeless man, your willingness to fight instead of giving up. I was going to give up. I was going to jump. If you hadn't been there. But I was there. Sometimes the most unlikely people show up at exactly the right moment. Sometimes the person everyone calls crazy is the only sane one in an insane situation. The media circus intensified. Every news station wanted interviews with Chitty. He gave them, explaining his side of the story, presenting the evidence, calling for justice. Public opinion shifted dramatically. The same people who had vilified him days earlier now called him a victim. #Justice for Chitty trended worldwide. The FCC unfroze his accounts. They began the process of recovering his stolen money from offshore accounts. They dropped all charges against him. His board of directors called an emergency meeting and reinstated him as CEO with full apologies. We should have believed you, the chairman said. We should have investigated more thoroughly. We're sorry. The lawsuits came fast. Adekunle charged with fraud, theft, conspiracy, money laundering. Chioma charged as an accomplice. Both facing decades in prison. But Chitty's focus was on someone else, Olyamide. What happens to you now? Chitty asked one evening as they sat in the apartment watching news coverage of the scandal. I go back to the streets, I suppose. This was just an interlude. A chance to do one good thing before returning to my normal life. Your normal life sleeping under bridges? Eating from garbage? That's not a life, Olyamide.
You saved me.
Let me help you. I'm a convicted criminal. No one will hire me. I have no money, no home, no family. You have me. And I have resources. I can't undo your conviction, but I can help you rebuild. If you're willing. Olyamide looked at Chitty with tears in his eyes. Why would you do that? I'm the one who built the weapon that destroyed you. And you're the one who gave me the weapon to fight back. You could have let me jump. You could have stayed silent and let Adekunle get away with everything. But you didn't. You risked everything to help a stranger. That's not something a bad person does. That's what a good person who made one terrible mistake does. The trial began 3 months later. It was the biggest financial crime case in Nigerian history. Adekunle and Chioma sat in the defendant's box, both looking diminished, without their designer clothes and arrogant confidence. Prison uniforms have a way of equalizing everyone. The prosecutor presented overwhelming evidence. The videos of Adekunle bragging about thefts, the documents detailing 7 years of fraud, the transaction records showing stolen money, the recordings of him and Chioma planning to frame Chitty. Adekunle's lawyer tried to argue that the evidence was obtained illegally through hacking. But the court ruled that since Olyamide had built the original system and installed the backdoor with Adekunle's knowledge that such security measures existed, the evidence was admissible. The most dramatic testimony came from Dr. Olyamide Coker himself. Chitty had paid for Olyamide's rehabilitation over the past 3 months. Proper housing, medical care, therapy for trauma, professional clothes. By the time Olyamide took the stand, he looked like a different person, clean, healthy, dignified. Dr. Coker, the prosecutor began, you admit you built the system Mr. Taiwo used to commit these crimes. Why should we believe you now? Because I'm done lying, Olyamide said firmly. 7 years ago, I made a terrible choice. My son was dying, and I was desperate. Mr. Taiwo offered me money to build a fraud system. I told myself I was just helping him access his own money. But I knew the truth. I was building a weapon that would hurt people. I built it anyway, and I've paid for that choice every day since. Mr. Taiwo betrayed you after you helped him?
Yes.
He recorded our meetings, edited the footage to make me look like the sole criminal, and reported me to authorities. I went to prison. Lost my family, my career, my dignity. When I got out, I had nothing. I became homeless. People called me crazy. Maybe I was. Guilt and shame and regret can break your mind. How did you end up helping Mr. Nwosu? I read about his case in newspapers I found in garbage bins. I recognized the patterns, the same system I'd built. I knew Mr. Nwosu was innocent. I knew Adekunle had done to him what he'd done to me. And I knew that if Mr. Nwosu jumped off that building, Adekunle would win. I couldn't let that happen. Not again. Why not? Olaymide's voice cracked with emotion. Because I'm tired of living with the guilt of what I created. I can't save the other 5 people Adekunle defrauded over the years. They're gone, ruined, scattered. But I could save Mr. Nwosu. I could stop Adekunle from destroying one more life. Maybe that doesn't redeem me. Maybe nothing can. But at least I can sleep at night now, knowing I finally did the right thing. The courtroom was silent except for Olaymide's quiet tears. Adekunle's lawyer tried to discredit him during cross-examination. Dr. Coker, you're a convicted criminal. You admitted to building fraud systems. You lived on the streets talking to yourself. Why should anyone believe your testimony? Because unlike your client, Olayimide replied quietly, I'm no longer lying. I'm not proud of what I did. I'm not keeping trophies of my crimes. I'm not bragging about how smart I am. I'm just a broken man trying to fix one mistake before I die. That's all. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was inevitable. Mr. Adekunle Taiwo, this court finds you guilty on all counts: fraud, theft, money laundering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. You systematically destroyed lives over 7 years, showing no remorse and extraordinary premeditation. This court sentences you to 30 years imprisonment without possibility of parole for 15 years. Adekunle showed no emotion, but as guards led him away, he looked back at Chidi one final time. I almost had everything, he said. If it wasn't for that madman, I would have won. That madman, Chidi replied, turned out to be the sanest person in this entire story. And the bravest. Chioma received 25 years as an accomplice. She cried and begged for mercy, claiming Adekunle had manipulated her. But the recordings proved otherwise. She had been an equal partner in the scheme. All the stolen money was recovered and returned to victims. Chidi got his 2 billion back. The other 5 victims Adekunle had defrauded over the years also received compensation. But the person Chidi was most concerned about wasn't mentioned in the verdict. It was Olayimide. 1 year after the trial, Chidi stood at a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the University of Lagos. The Dr. Olayimide Coker Center for Financial Ethics and Integrity was being inaugurated, a 3-story building funded entirely by Chidi, dedicated to teaching accountants, business students, and financial professionals about ethics, integrity, and the real consequences of white-collar crime. Dr. Olayimide Coker stood beside Chidi, holding a framed certificate, his accounting license, fully restored after Chidi had hired the best lawyers to appeal the case and present evidence of Adekunle's manipulation. Olayimide had changed completely over the past year. Chidi had paid for his rehabilitation, therapy for trauma and depression, medical treatment for health issues from years on the streets, a small apartment in Yaba, professional clothes, and most importantly, help reconnecting with his children. I never thought I'd stand here again, Olayimide said to the assembled crowd of students, faculty, and journalists. A year ago, I was homeless, hopeless, broken. People crossed the street to avoid me. Security guards chased me from public places. I lived in garbage, ate from garbage, thought of myself as garbage. He paused, composing himself. I made a terrible choice 7 years ago. I helped a criminal because I was desperate to save my son's life. But desperation doesn't justify crime. Fear doesn't excuse betrayal. I hurt people with what I built, even if I didn't mean to. And I paid for it, but not as much as my victims paid. Olayimide looked directly at the students. This center exists to teach you what I learned too late. There's always another choice. When someone offers you money to do something wrong, you can say no. When you're desperate, you can find help from honest sources. When you're scared, you can show courage instead of taking shortcuts. Your ethics, your integrity, your character, these are worth more than any amount of money. Because money can be lost. But your soul, once compromised, is very hard to get back. After the ceremony, Chitty and Alyamide sat together in a quiet cafe nearby. "Thank you," Chitty said, "for everything, for saving my life, for helping me get justice, for teaching me that people are more than their worst mistakes." "You saved my life too," Alyamide replied. "That night on the rooftop, I wasn't just stopping you from jumping. I was stopping myself. I've wanted to die every day for 7 years. But helping you, fighting Atakunal, seeing justice done, it gave me a reason to keep living. It showed me that redemption is possible, even for someone who's fallen as far as I fell." "What will you do now?" "Teach at the center. Write about financial ethics. Maybe one day write a book about everything that happened. Help other people who've made mistakes find their way back to integrity. I've been given a second chance. I won't waste it." "And your children?" Alyamide smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. "My son Femi is in medical school now, 23 years old. The surgery I sacrificed everything for? It's saved his life. He's going to be a doctor. He doesn't fully forgive me yet for what I did, but we're talking. We have dinners once a month. That's more than I ever thought I'd have." "And your daughter?" Temitope is in her final year of secondary school. She's brilliant. Wants to be an accountant, ironically. She's angry with me still, and she has every right to be. But last month, she called me for help with a math assignment. It was the first time she'd voluntarily called in 7 years. I cried for an hour after we hung up. Family takes time to heal.
Yes.
But at least now I have time. A year ago, I had nothing but guilt and shame and a desire to die. Now I have a purpose, a home, a chance to rebuild. That's everything." They sat in comfortable silence, two men who had both stood at the edge of death and chosen to live, to fight, to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. 6 months later, Chitty's business had fully recovered. Nwosu Industries was bigger than ever, with new contracts across West Africa. But Chitty had changed. He donated millions to homeless shelters, mental health programs, and rehabilitation centers. "Money doesn't define us," he said in an interview. "Character does. I had money and lost it, then got it back. But the most valuable thing I gained through this whole experience wasn't money. It was understanding. Understanding that the homeless man on the street might be a genius who can save your life. That the person everyone calls crazy might be the only sane one in an insane world. That redemption is always possible if you have the courage to seek it." He married again 2 years later, not a gold digger like Chioma, but a social worker he met at one of the homeless shelters he funded. Someone who loved him for his character, not his bank account. And every week, without fail, Chitty had dinner with Dr. Alyamide Coker, the madman who saved a billionaire, the broken man who found redemption, the unlikely hero whose courage changed everything. Together, they had proven something profound, that rock bottom isn't the end. That betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. That sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. And that the people society has given up on might just be the ones who save us all. Never judge a person by their appearance, their past, or their circumstances. The homeless man on the street might be the genius who saves your life. The madman everyone avoids might be the sanest, bravest person you'll ever meet. We live in a world that worships money and status while ignoring character and integrity. But remember this, when betrayal brings you to your knees, when you're standing at the edge ready to end everything, it won't be the rich and powerful who save you. It will be someone who understands pain. Someone who has survived their own fall. Someone who knows what it means to lose everything and still choose to live. Don't let greed and betrayal win. Don't let darkness convince you there's no light. Because somewhere, when you least expect it, someone who seems broken will remind you why life is worth fighting for. And that person might just be the one everyone else called crazy. Second chances aren't just for the people we think deserve them. They're for everyone brave enough to take them. Redemption is possible, not because we erase our mistakes, but because we choose to do better despite them. And sometimes, the person you save by choosing to live might be yourself. Honest question. If you were Chitty standing on that rooftop and a homeless madman told you he could help you get revenge on the people who betrayed you, would you? A. Trust him immediately and work together. B. Think he's crazy and ignore him. C. Be suspicious but give him a chance. D. Call security and have him removed. Be completely honest. What would you really do in that moment? Drop your answer in the comments. And here's a harder question. Have you ever judged someone by their appearance and later realized you were wrong? Share your story. Let's see who would have missed their miracle because they judged by appearances. And if this story touched your heart, please do 3 things right now. 1. Hit that subscribe button. I create powerful Nigerian moral stories like this every week. Stories about justice, forgiveness, and shocking revelations. 2. Smash that like button if this story moved you. 3. Share this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next powerful story. God bless you.